Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm really sorry that I can't be with you in person today. I hope you've taken in some fantastic content over the last couple of days and that the rest of the conference proves to be equally valuable. My role in the next 25 minutes or so is to really have us take a step back and look at where next. We know how hard the industry has been working to recover with great successes so far, but also a lot of uncertainty about the future. And what we're seeing is sort of emerging on our radars now, over 50 players in the industry starting to experiment or offer services around the adoption of crypto, the use of NFTs, and taking a presence in one or more metaverses. And what I want to do is to take you on a bit of a tour through that to help you understand what they're doing and why. And the health warning I would give is it's very easy to have a strong emotional reaction to these things, and that's very natural. It's also very natural because we're all smart people to have some intellectual questions or some objections to what's going on. But the thing I would encourage you to do is to set those to one side for a moment, because however I feel about Air Baltic accepting crypto, whatever I think about Etihad launching NFTs, and however ridiculous or exciting I might feel that Incheon are launching a metaverse, it doesn't matter. It's not going to stop them. So what's really important for me is that we understand what's going on. We understand what people are doing. We understand the possibilities. And then we make our informed choices about what we want to do. And it's completely valid to say, I don't want to do anything. That's a great response if it's not right for you right now. I'm certainly not going to try and sell you anything, and I'm sure no one else speaking about these topics in the conference is trying to do that either. So let's press on. And I'm going to focus on these themes. I'm not going to read them out, but we're going to explore from what are the forces shaping our world through to how do we start to make money out of these developments and what people are doing. And then finally closing on, well, what can we do about it? What could our next steps be if we're interested in diving a little deeper? And the place I would start is that if we look at the picture of aviation, we can be almost certain that about 70% of the planet will never get on a plane. And the question is, well, should we care about them? And my answer is yes, because I think these new technologies and these solutions we're talking about today give us the opportunity to reach those audiences in a different way. And with pressure from climate change, concerns about inflation, about a volatile economy, we know we can never be certain about the numbers who'll be flying. But what we can do is create propositions that reach a much wider audience that give us new revenue streams. And that to me is where the excitement is and why so many people are looking at these propositions. And we're doing this in the middle of a decade where big dreams, big possibilities are starting to emerge. We're hearing people talk about underwater cities, colonizing other planets, the most incredible cities being developed as part of NEOM in Saudi Arabia, and a range of different developments that are truly mind-blowing, extension of the human lifespans. We could go on. And this is going to change our world and our perception of it in the next few years. But what we know is the future isn't certain. And whatever we think it might be, we're probably going to be wrong. And it's not a foregone conclusion as to what will happen or how it will happen. And that's why I think we need to be so open to possibilities. And what I would say is there are these four big themes. The first is we are in a period of intense transition. Everything we know, health systems, education, transport, monetary systems, all of that is being questioned. Digital is transforming every industry. And these shifts are creating both massive risk, but also massive opportunity. And we know in previous periods of turbulence, some of the biggest and most successful industries and businesses have been formed. And so our challenge is to say, well, how do we start to understand this to navigate a path to the future? And one of the critical things we know is that there are a set of technologies that are really reshaping the agenda. Already, we see artificial intelligence, new materials, ever more capable technology solutions, advances in biology, starting to change our world right now. But then if we look out just 5 years, we see some incredible developments coming where we could get to AI that's as smart or close to being as smart as humans, and we'll come back to that. Materials that will monitor their own properties and adapt over time. Biological solutions that could give us 20, 30, 40 years of extension of our life expectancy. All of this hitting us at roughly the same time, the same 5-year period or so. And so being aware of these things becomes ever more important, and thinking about how do we bring them into the aviation environment, or how might they impact, I think is critical. I talked about AI. A lot of people are talking about artificial general intelligence, this idea of creating AI that's as smart as humans. We're not quite there yet. Some say we may never get there. Others think we could get to something that's pretty much as smart as humans 80% of the time within 10 years. But already we're seeing what's called generalized artificial intelligence, a tool called Gato that can perform 600 different tasks in parallel. And it can outperform the human experts in the equivalent tasks in over 2/3 of them. So understanding that these technologies are already here or coming, we have to then think about how do they change everything else, and how do they impact what we can do, whether it's in finance, in transportation, in aviation, in retail. We have to think about how they start to create new opportunities, new business models, and change our behaviors. We also know that all of these technologies are coming together in something called Web3. The reality is no one's quite sure what Web3 is. Everyone who has something to sell creates a version of the story that includes their technology offering, but it's basically rethinking how we deliver the internet using a distributed architecture, using all the functionality of blockchain, weaving in AI, weaving some of the things we wanted to do to add more context to the information, and providing a platform for things like cryptos, NFTs, and Metaverses. So this is starting to sit at the center of more conversations about the future. We also know that all of this is changing human expectations about the art of the possible, what we should want, what we could desire, what could be made available to us, from drone delivery through to self-surgery using some of the new technologies. And we know that everything we own now is starting to have a digital version of it, or a digital certification of it, that makes it a tradable asset. So for example, the trees in your garden, we can now put a sensor on them that monitors their carbon emissions or their carbon absorption, and then those can be put into a carbon offset that someone pays for. So you can start earning money on the trees in your garden. My collection of programs from Chelsea football matches has a tradable value. I can now sell those digitally and starting to trade those in different platforms where I can buy other goods and services. My car parking space, I can now rent out and earn money from. And all of my loyalty cards have points in which are tradable already in monetary terms. If we can start to aggregate those and transfer them across businesses, as some people are starting to do, then we're seeing all of the things that we own, all of the assets we own, suddenly having monetary value. And we're able to then start thinking about, well, how do we do business? How do we do commerce? What can we accept in the future beyond just cash? And all of this comes together to tell us that there are many possible scenarios for the aviation sector. I'm just going to focus on a couple that I think are really interesting around cryptos, NFT, and metaverses. And the first thing is, the question everyone asks is, well, where's the money in this? And obviously the technologies tend to come before the applications and the revenue models. But what we saw is that took a while with the internet. It was much faster with social media, and now it's happening almost straight away with these new propositions. And the first area that people are getting interested in is crypto. One of the reasons for that is there are over 350 million people around the world who own crypto. There are people being paid in crypto, and there are people who want to spend in crypto. In a recent survey, over 25% of US travelers said they want to use their crypto to pay. And the question would be, well, if you're willing to accept yen or euros or any other currency, then why wouldn't you accept crypto if you can translate it instantly or convert it instantly into your base currency like the US dollar? So why wouldn't we start to think about that? And that's why so many players in aviation are starting to move in. The second is we're seeing the payments providers making it a lot easier. So Stripe, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard are making it easier and easier for vendors, for merchants, for banks to accept crypto, but even to issue crypto now. So in many cases, we don't even know we're accepting crypto because that's all handled by the merchant, or if we are, the whole process is handled by the merchant. We also know that countries are starting to adopt both cryptocurrencies as legal tender. El Salvador was the first last year, September the 7th, so yesterday, 1 year ago, they were the first country in the world to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. There are now 40 countries or so at different stages of moving to having cryptos as legal tender. A number of countries starting to create central bank digital currencies, which allow us to trade electronically using those currencies. So there's starting to be a takeoff. There's starting to be a growing number of people who want to use these currencies to pay. So the question is, why wouldn't we? And what we're seeing is, for example, a lot of travel agencies using cryptos now as another method through which you can pay. Expedia offer 700,000 products. Their platform is powered by a technology called Travala. And we're seeing that being used as a platform for many other players. We're seeing all these different airline booking sites now offering access to over 600 airlines paying by crypto, and initiatives like the one you see on screen where players are coming together to enable large networks of airlines to accept crypto payments. So we're seeing this moving now. This is an initiative or a trend in motion that it's worth understanding. We're also seeing interesting things like Schiphol Airport, allowing you to convert your loose change into either Ethereum or Bitcoin crypto coins. And we're seeing a lot of airlines. Air Baltic claimed to be the first, but a lot of airlines doing something around crypto, whether it's accepting it directly, converting their loyalty points into schemes like Singapore Airlines with their Chris Plus program, and others talking about or about to launch their crypto propositions. And there are many more now starting to do this. Airports are starting to accept crypto for certain payments within the airport environment. Like Brisbane Airport was one of the first to do that. And you're starting to see some innovative models emerging for how we fund what we do. So, for example, Miami launched its own cryptocurrency back in 2021. And the mining fees are the fees that are paid for the validation of transactions. And there's a tiny fee charged every time a transaction is validated. And they take 30% of those fees for Miami coin. That turned into $1 million of revenue in the first week, and they're using that to fund all sorts of infrastructure projects. So as we in aviation start to think about, well, how do we fund future investment? Then maybe this is something we can start to look at or start to talk to our cities or destinations about how might we create something like this to fund some of our developments. The next stage on is NFTs, and these are enabled by cryptos. And these are about combining valuable assets like artworks with some form of experience. So you get a digital asset that's uniquely yours, and we can have art on it, we can store your education certificates on it, we can store your airline certificate. And the range of applications are just mind-blowing already and growing by the day. And the range of functionality that we can build into NFTs is growing. One of the ones I really liked was last year for the Coachella Festival, which is this music and arts festival in California. The tickets were issued as NFTs, but the NFT actually has become more valuable over time because once you own that NFT, you can get access to more content. It also gives you the right to buy tickets for future events at a lower price. So the value of that will actually go up in time. We're seeing airlines launching them. So Air Baltic has launched a number of limited edition NFTs showing different destinations that they fly from within Latvia, but also, within the Baltic states. But also they've put these up now into a virtual gallery so you can see them all in a metaverse. So they're starting to build some loyalty around the brand, generate new revenues, and giving themselves the opportunity to create a community with whom they can continue exchanging ideas, continue making offers to, and build greater loyalty with over time. Another good example is this partnership between this skincare company called Dr. Jart and Singapore Changi Airport. And what they did was they launched what are called proof of access protocols. So they launched 9,000 of them. Basically, you had to go to the website and download them, or you had to visit a certain location inside Changi Airport. And that qualified you to then go into a competition to be able to name these 2 NFTs they created that show scenes from within Changi Airport. And then the winning entries won these NFTs, which are likely to become more valuable over time. Those people also won $1,000 worth of cosmetics from Dr. Jart. But what that means is those 9,000 people can now be communicated with and offered additional services and additional value over time, and you build a deeper relationship with that community. Emirates, sorry, not Emirates, that would go down very badly with my friends at Emirates. Etihad recently launched 2003 of these 3D NFTs to celebrate the fact that they were launched in 2003. And the interesting thing is you paid $349 for them, but it gave you silver status with them. So you could have that for a year. It gave 10 people free tickets with them. And it's going to be a platform, again, to deliver a new flow of benefits and relationship enhancers to those holders of those 2003 NFTs. And the interesting thing there is that these sold out at real speed, and they're already talking about what they do next. The other interesting thing is all the revenue from this is being used to buy sustainable aviation fuels so that they can offset any of the energy costs of minting these NFTs in the first place. So those 2 are enablers. And then the third development that's happening is this rise of the notion of virtual worlds. And there are many different types of virtual worlds, from the gaming environments such as Minecraft to the new platforms like Decentraland, which run on distributed platforms, to the megalith platforms being created by the likes of Facebook. And we'll talk a little bit about these so you understand what's going on there. We can give a sense. Back last year, Facebook announced its rebranding to Meta and basically said it was betting the ranch on the metaverse, and it wants to take its 3 billion customers into its metaverse called Horizon Worlds, where it's going to create all of these different possible experiences and allow people to set up properties, set up experiences, generate their own revenues. Microsoft are also positioning for this. So they've put a bid in to buy Activision, the biggest games developer, because they want their capabilities in game design and experience design to create metaverse propositions. And Microsoft already have a business-focused metaverse called Mesh, which is an extension to Teams that allows us to have meetings in that environment. But you're seeing some really interesting things happening. So Fortnite is one of the environments that's really popular. Fortnite basically is controlled by Fortnite, so no one else can do anything there unless they give you permission. And they created something called the Rift Tour last year. Ariana Grande performed a concert. It was a sort of multimedia experience. And on the back of that, they generated over $20 million in merchandise sales. It starts to give us a feel that, okay, these can be real revenue earners. They also attracted 78 million people to watch that concert or take part in that experience. There's no way we could reach that number of people in any other way. So the reach that this gives us is phenomenal. And again, I talked about reaching people. So many of the people who attended this concert could never afford a ticket to a real Ariana Grande concert. So we're opening the possibility up to huge numbers of people across the planet. So, interesting enough, this was triggered by the pandemic, where they said, actually, our citizens can't get out and access services, so we need to give them a different way of doing that, all of the services that the city offers. But also, people outside Seoul can have the experience of what's going on in Seoul without ever leaving home. And so they've created a metaverse with a primary goal of reaching all those people on the planet who may never come, but can still participate in Korean and Seoul-based experiences and ultimately generate revenues over time. Qatar were claimed to be the first airline to launch a metaverse, and they started with just a virtual reality experience to help you explore their cabins and the facilities in their higher end cabins. Now they're going further, and what they're saying is that the next version of their metaverse presence will allow you to buy tickets in the metaverse and to purchase limited edition NFTs. We haven't quite seen what they're about to deliver yet, but that's the promise of where they're going. Because again, they realize there's a large audience that live in metaverses, spend their time there. There's over 1 billion people already on those existing platforms. Some are earning money there from playing games or creating characters or creating what are called the skins for you to wear, for your character to wear, the outfits. So there's a lot of people earning in these environments and they want to spend in these environments. So more and more people like Qatar Airways are saying, well, how do we tap into that? And how do we give you the opportunity to spend money with us in those environments? Another airline that's doing this, and Vueling again say they're the first to do this, where you can again go and learn about travel journeys, plan journeys, and then pay for your tickets in the metaverse. Incheon is claiming to be the first airport in the metaverse, and I think they're at the event or nominated for an award at this event. And what they've got is a platform that guides people through the check-in process, so you can see a virtual version before you fly or before you travel to the airport, so you can learn more about it. So that's a very rapid tour through, just to give you a sense of what different people are doing with cryptos, NFTs, and metaverses. And as I said at the beginning, the key here is you don't have to do any of these things. But if you are interested, what might you do next? Well, the first is to say, you know what, we're going to stay in our lane. We're not going to do anything different, but we're just going to understand what's going on. We're going to research it and explore. Some might go further and say, actually, we want to pilot something here. We want to create a trial NFT, a very limited edition one, to see how it works, to see what the take-up is. Or we might want to create some sort of metaverse experience for some aspect of what we do. One of the airlines we know is looking at creating metaverse flights, so you can move between one metaverse and another in some sort of virtual experience. And people are talking about all sorts of things we can do. And I would say, think about meaningful experiences. And what I mean by that is don't just do a billboard version of your current website. Possibly the worst metaverse presence out there right now, and I hate to say this, is one of the big banks. They launched a report saying they thought the metaverse could be worth $1 trillion in annual revenues by 2030 for people who are involved in them. And they launched their own metaverse platform. But all the metaverse platform contains is a tiger wandering around to greet you, a picture of their CEO, and a PowerPoint presentation about how they think the future of payments might evolve. And the question is, who would go there? So it's a meaningless presence. So do something that's useful, either for existing customers or potential new customers who want to go in there to learn, or to target the younger audiences that are already there to capture their attention and ultimately convert them into buyers of your virtual services and maybe even your physical ones. One of the ideas that metaverses and crypto make possible is the idea of tokenizing everything, splitting everything down into millions of fractional units. So actually what we're seeing now is people saying, I'm going to buy land in a metaverse, I'm going to build property, but I'm going to allow literally tens of thousands of people to buy a unit in it. And then they can sell them independently, whether or not I sell that property. Then you've got others saying, well, actually, we can do that in the virtual world, but we'll do it with a virtual equivalent of something we're building in the physical world. So an office building, but there could be 100,000 people who own a tiny unit in that. And again, there's a market in those tokens, so they can sell them without me having to sell the property. Now, think about what that might do to financing our next plane purchase or financing a new building for the airport, starting to just think about creative ways in which these propositions start to help us. They also start to give us new ways of thinking about how we can do business. So, for example, a subscription model where someone pays with crypto over time. And basically, we can gain share with them. So we can say, okay, you pay in crypto. Most of what you pay for 20 seats at a fixed price will convert directly to our base currency, but we'll keep a tiny percentage of it in crypto. And at the end of each period, let's say every 6 months or a year, we'll look at what's happened to that crypto. And if its value has gone up in price, we'll split the gains with you as the customer. We'll keep half, and you can have half to buy more flights from us or to buy more activities in our airport, but at the price you paid originally. So we can start to lock customers in smart ways that actually add value to them. We can also start to think about taking our commercial propositions, our retail offering, to a global audience. There's no reason why we can't translate our physical terminal into a virtual one, but with a much faster turnaround with the outlets there, a much wider range of offerings, other kinds of experience that we couldn't necessarily put into our physical outlet. And people say, why would I do that? And this is, again, a hedge against the volatility that we're likely to see in the overall economy and how that might play into the aviation market. And then others, I think, are also saying, look, let's not just look at these things. Let's take a step back and take a bigger look at what the future might hold. What are some of those drivers, ideas, and possibilities that might shape the future and the different scenarios that could play out? And think about the role that these developments could play within those different scenarios. And maybe that might encourage us to do earlier and faster experimentation. And I think you've already heard at the conference about this new offering that we're launching in partnership with FTE of this future-proofing advisory service to help organizations in aviation get their heads around the future and plan their own future, develop their own future visions, explore future scenarios, and build that capacity to keep scanning the future and use it to drive strategic planning, operational planning, and innovation. So I hope this has made a lot of sense to you. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is, as we're starting to explore the future, to think about how open are we to ideas. We all say we are, but what's our body language to people inside the organization who come up with an idea? Are we encouraging of that? Do we create the opportunity for them to explore and experiment with the idea? Or is there a set of processes and procedures that put them off? And what are we like when people from outside approach us with ideas, particularly in these new spaces? Are we open to hearing from them and to exploring ideas with them? Or is our body language somewhat standoffish? And I think the more open we are, the more likely we are to receive new ideas and to act faster in the world we're moving into. So I hope this makes sense. And what I would say for me is, we're at a point in time where we have to learn new dance routines. We all know certain dance routines. We knew how to dance when the pandemic hit, and what to do about our cost base, our flights and everything. We know how to respond when a recession hits, or someone opens a competitive route, or a new aviation technology comes through, or the demand increases for our airport. We know those dance routines. But now everything is changing at the same time, and we need to learn some new dance routines. And you can't learn dance routines by standing on the side and writing a business case or doing a project plan. We have to get on the dance floor, we have to experiment, we have to look really ugly, trip over our own feet, kick other people, until we start to get good and learn how to change quite quickly as the music changes quickly. And I think that's the exciting thing actually here. It's the real opportunity to give ourselves permission to explore what's coming next and to capitalize on some of these things, many of which could turn into real revenue generators in the next year. So I hope that's given you food for thought, and I wish you a fantastic rest of the conference, and I hope you take away lots of great ideas from the event to go back and turn into value in your organizations. Thank you.